Hello everyone. I just returned from Mexico and wanted to cover a topic I'm passionate about. It deals with supposed ancient alien artifacts coming out of several locations in Mexico, the most significant being Abuelos de Jalisco. Originally I considered many of these artifacts the real deal. At least I hope they were real, with the subject matter having the opportunity to rewrite history. Unfortunately, after studying, researching, and investigating these artifacts, I have to come to another conclusion. Now, first off, I know many people have paid a lot of money for these artifacts. I myself have purchased several in order to research the topic. Because of that, many want to believe they are in possession of the real deal. Unfortunately, I believe that is not the case. Please stay open-minded while viewing my presentation. Like I said, I wanted these to be a game changer in our ancient history. Allow me to present my argument to you. So a quick background. I have a degree in interdisciplinary studies. My major focus was anthropology and archaeology. My specialization happens to be Mesoamerican cultures. I conducted 2 site excavations when I was younger. One was in the Yucatan Peninsula and the other on Isla de Cozumel. I was also in law enforcement and private investigation, meaning I understand the methodology of investigating criminal and civil matters, and I'm versed in chain of custody procedures. I have been to many sites throughout Mexico, researching the potential for lost ancient history, lost cultures, and civilizations. I truly want to be a believer. At the same time, I owe everyone, especially myself, the scientific method, data points that should be repeatable, and plain and simple, the truth from facts. Most of the ancient alien artifacts have been coming out of Jalisco, a central state in Mexico. The supposed ruin sites are south of Abuelos de Jalisco. One location, Cerro del Toro, meaning Peak of the Bull, accounts for many of the ancient alien finds. You also have the Los Altos Jalisco region on the opposite side of a highway where the darker gray pieces come from. Currently it is unsafe to be there. The drug cartels are fighting for domination. Since 2019, 38 police officers have been killed in the city or surrounding suburbs. In 2015, the chief of police was gunned down in his truck and the assassination was covered on CCTV. They fired almost 150 rounds into his vehicle. Making modern reproductions and presenting them as ancient alien relics have become a major business for this area. A percentage of those profits are finding their way to the CJNG, or Jalisco Drug Cartel. This goes to tell you how lucrative this business has become. Few look to truly be pre-Hispanic artifacts. These are the types of sales ads being used to sell the pieces. They almost always cite the carbon-14 dating done to the Oleg Elistratov collection by the University of Arizona. There was also another individual that had them test 2 samples. I won't go into who that was, but testing itself was performed by C.J. Easto before he retired from the University of Arizona in 2015. A couple more were carbon-14 dated by a private company out of Florida called Beta Analytic. They all have stopped performing these tests after feeling their names and reputation had been and continue to be dragged through the mud. This is the Accelerator Mass Spectrometry Lab at the University of Arizona. University representatives at the lab were contacted to discuss the carbon-14 dating of the 2 pieces. Dr. Greg Hodgins, that heads up the department, was the contact. Mr. Hodgins' signature appears on the Oleg Elistratov carbon testing document, which is AA-107679, lab number X30177. Mr. Hodgins clarified their lab did not remove any artifact pieces themselves from its original placement, such as an accent eye or tooth from an artifact. So he has no idea if contamination occurred during this process. He never saw the artifact nor confirmed any sort of provenance or authenticity of any artifact's discovery. Their labs never received an artifact, only a small amount of scraping of dust, which could have come from anywhere. Mr. Hodgins cautioned about assuming that their findings proved anything about the authenticity of any artifact, or even the age of organic material used as glue. This cannot be confirmed for a number of reasons. He provided very convincing and understandable reasons based on principles and scientific modalities. Can test results like these be deliberately and easily falsified? The answer is absolutely. Mr. Hodgins explained that any petroleum products that are commonly used in glue materials would automatically show up with dates of 5,000 or more years, strictly because the age of the petroleum products themselves. So mixing a 50% or less petroleum glue products with any kind of organic material would push the material testing to this date or older. Mr. Hodgins explained their lab is grossly misquoted on many TV broadcasts and web-based streaming programs, claiming they dated numerous objects. Far too many objects are being associated with two carbon-14 tests. Hence, the Oleg Elistratov test results document has been attached to numerous artifacts by numerous production companies and sellers of supposed antiquities. Now, these are but a few known ways to create that aged, archaic look and feel to fake an artifact. Incrustation, which is that hard coating of a surface. Pecked and hand polished to provide an old-time finish. Could be buried in manure piles for that well-aged appearance. Chemical bath to add false patina, rock tumbled for aging. It can be buried to be dug up at a later date with witnesses around. Fake documentation for authenticating age, as we've been discussing, and using organic glue substance. I discussed these with Alyssa Tate, who is the Director of Laboratory Operations at the Direct AMS Lab out of the state of Washington. They're a private company that provides carbon-14 dating for a fee. Even the private companies require a suite of pre- and post-sampling photos to facilitate association of the sample with the source object and to verify chain of custody. But this still requires the customer to be forthright in the information that they provide. First thing about this slide, University of Arizona did not receive the artifacts, only the photos from the owner along with small samples of material, supposedly from both artifacts and the photos already labeled by the owner of the objects. So what's wrong with this? The supposed artifacts were tested because the person in possession of the artifacts sent in the $500 lab fees for each. U of A only discussed the glue and at the very end stated it contains a protein-based material. This was done in 2012 before the university knew what these people were going to use this information for. Now this carbon-14 test has been used on thousands of these fake ancient alien artifacts to sell them. It's part of the sales pitch. While the University of Arizona might like to be helpful, their reputation is being tainted by many people misrepresenting their data. Mr. Hodgins explained the importance of provenance. This means in order to have any kind of verification of an artifact's authenticity, a bona fide university engaged in the discovery and research of archaeological artifacts is imperative, or some established museum pieces that were discovered in the past might provide some historical reference points. Can cultural context to these artifacts be proven? This might help to establish some validity for similar artifacts. An academic archaeologist finding objects could create a chain of custody through process of discovery with photos and research assistants present where no monetary benefit to any single individual occurs. This way the artifacts are part of a documented process typical of a large, well-documented excavation done with proper archaeological methodologies. This would be required for any museum or an academic university to be involved to further study and authenticate an artifact. Even if the entire artifact is shipped to the AMS labs, they could not verify its provenance without knowing its historical setting. By mixing a petroleum glue-based substance into other organic materials, this would contaminate the accuracy of any carbon-14 test, producing extreme dates of antiquity. For any object to be proven to have an ancient past, the AMS lab would need to be testing bone or wood materials. While the bone could be tested for its age, the lab would not be able to verify the age of the carving on the bone. So the antiquity of the artifact will be in question, merely because of the chain of custody, obviously being private ownership. Now, once an object has been purchased through vendors selling these artifacts, this makes age verification of the objects next to impossible. How can any artifacts coming out of the ground through a process of unauthorized excavation be assessed as real, especially if the organic glue material could have been tampered with? How can the carbon dating test reveal anything relevant? It can't, not without the other earlier steps mentioned. Let's go over some examples. Here you see faked marks, scratches added to look older than it is, looks to have been tumbled at outer edges in a tumbler. Pitting is not correct, only on outer edges and lines of designs, different tooling at semicircles or circular cutting, glyphs added without any type of readable sequence. This pipe artifact that may be able to have organic material scraped out from inside and carbon-14 tested. Again, this looks faked. Aging is not correct, glyphs are random and in no order, pitting lacking in spots and overcompensated for in others. The design looks faked. Here again, faked. This is pitting and scratching to achieve an aged look. This is not withering nor carbonic acid over eons. No deterioration buried in the ground. It's intentional markings. This is an actual replica I watched being created in Mexico. I had to pay to participate watching this forgery be created. I believe this artifact has the best potential of being from antiquity, an ancient copy of an earlier piece or an original, meaning several thousand years old. Notice that other than the unique shape this object has, the carvings, markings are not all that radical. What you see could represent an ancient culture or civilization, not having to have other world origins. I want to make one important comment that would be on the opposite side of my argument, but I believe it's only fair to cover. People state an artifact is fair if they see tooling used. But who's not to say that thousands of years ago an advanced culture did not exist that had pneumatic, electrical, or vibrational tools? There are many Native American cultures that state the giants known as the Starnake used such tools in their mining, art, and building design thousands of years ago. Finally, I wanted to show you two pieces that were properly excavated. Their provenance is not called into question. Being a genuine artifact is not in question. This is kept at the Gilcrease Museum in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Unfortunately, the museum is being rebuilt and it'll take a couple of years to complete before you can go and see this. It is stated to be Hacha style from Veracruz, Mexico, and it was labeled as older than most things but unknown date. Very interesting subject matter. This is how academia attempts to make sense of things completely out of place. Older than most things. Excellent scientific labeling, right? Possible this is from Guerrero, Mexico. It's unknown origin, unknown date, and the style is questionable. Well, I believe subject matter should also be questioned here. Thank you for taking the time to watch the presentation. I understand that some of you will be at odds with my findings, which is fine. We are all entitled to our beliefs and opinions. I'm hoping in the end to help many save spending money on fakes. There are real ancient artifacts out there. A majority were found before the year 1980 and continue to remain in the care, custody, and control of the families that have owned them for a lengthy period. Most of those people live in or around the town of Abuelos de Jalisco, Veracruz, or several other spots in Mexico. Please consider following me on my YouTube page. I will continue to post about Skinwalker Ranch, Blind Frog Ranch, and many other sites around the world worth looking into. Take care.